Halito, Chimachuma, this is Chief Steve coming at y'all with another episode of True Story. We got a really interesting one for you guys today, but before we get into it, make sure you guys like and hype this video, comment in the comment section, get real interactive, hit that subscribe button if you're new, and don't forget to hit that notification bell as well. So whenever I drop these bombs, you'll be the first ones to grab them. Now, without further ado, let's get into it.
Chief warriors killed Chief William McIntosh on April 30th, 1825 because he signed a treaty without their consent, giving up their land, and that is punishable by death. So you tell me why, when I'm applying for my grandfather's Creek Nation information, why is that same family running the vitals and statistics of the very people that took them out the first time? That is crazy to me. If y'all don't think that's crazy, I don't care. But I think that that's crazy. That says a lot. I don't even know how to say what that say, but that says a lot.
Good morning. This is part 2 of the Transamerican slave trade. If part 1 blew your mind, part 2 is where receipts start hitting even harder. Because now we're talking about the exact tribes that were shipped during the Transamerican slave trade. Now entire nations ended up scattered across the Caribbean and beyond. So starting in the Carolinas, because historians quietly admit that the Carolinas ran the largest indigenous slave export industry in North America. That means the people that they called Black in South Carolina, North Carolina, Georgia, and Virginia today are often the same tribes that were being rounded up and shipped out 300 to 400 years ago. The Yamasee, the Catawba, the PD, the Saponi, and even groups linked to the Shawnee and the Natchez were all documented as being captured and exported. Letters from the Carolina governors brag about sending cargoes of American slaves to Barbados, Antigua, and Jamaica. Barbados was one of the first islands flooded with American Indians. After the Pequot War, New England survivors, including children, were marched to Boston Harbor and loaded onto ships bound for Barbados. The records literally say Indians from Pequot County shipped to Barbados. That means Pequot bloodlines didn't vanish. They were scattered through the Caribbean. Barbados plantation logs also listed Carolina Indians, meaning people from the southeast were shipped there in massive numbers. Bermuda became a holding pen for indigenous captives from the Powhatan Confederacy. The Susquehanna and tribes from Virginia and Maryland. Bermuda records mention Indian cargoes, Indian prisoners, and even Indian apprentices, which just was another name for enslaved laborers. Some of the earliest families of Bermuda, especially those with darker or copper skin, descended from American Indian prisoners, not Africans. Jamaica, same story. After the English took Jamaica from Spain, they filled the island with Indian transported for rebellion from the Carolinas and Virginia. Colonial officials wrote that Jamaica had so many Indians as to be troublesome. These weren't African, they were indigenous people deported from U.S. soil and relabeled upon arrival. Antigua and St. Kitts were full of indigenous captives during the Yamasee War. When the English went to war with the Yamasee and their allies in South Carolina, they slaughtered the men and shipped the women and children to the Caribbean. Some were sent to Antigua, others to St. Kitts. Their descendants today have no idea that they come from South Carolina tribes, because the labels Negro and Mulatto were applied as soon as they hit the ports. Even New England tribes were scattered. Survivors of the Wampanoag, the Pequot conflicts were sold in Boston and exported to Barbados, Madria. Some went to Spain, others to Portugal. Those bloodlines were absorbed into the communities overseas and vanished from American historical records. But they didn't vanish genetically. And the part that nobody wants to admit, when some of these people were later brought back to the mainland as laborers, where they were returned under the label Negro, not Indian. The indigenous identity was erased on paper, so the land theft could be justified. This is why Black Americans and Caribbean families look so similar. You're looking at the same nations, just ripped apart and scattered by ship routes. The same cheekbones, the same copper-colored tones, the same family names, the same oral histories about Indian ancestry, the same mixture of indigenous, European. All of these were part of the indigenous history that's been erased. So when people ask, where did the tribes go? The answer is simply, they didn't go anywhere. They didn't disappear. They were deported. They were renamed. They were descendants sitting right here today, labeled as Black, colored, and African American. When the truth is, none of those labels apply. They're all from this country. They're all from this land, American Indians.
Man, get in here, get in here, get in here, get in here. Most people have saw this list and wonder why we did not get reparations. Well, it has a secret identity that we took upon. Now, I'm about to show you who is the identities that we took upon for us not to get reparations. Let's start with slavery. Who is these peoples that was an original slaves? Now, go on and take a screenshot. Go on and take a screenshot. And you're about to literally see that literally the United States been sending these peoples thousands of dollars per person to these countries. But the English word for slave is derived from Slav, referring to the Slavic peoples. The Russians, the Ukrainians. Remember that? Remember President Trump sending millions and millions and millions of dollars to them? All because we took on their name and they the one got the reparations. Do you remember that? Now, what about the term African American or the term Black descendants, right? Now, even though them new terms, watch who's trying to benefit from the word African American. Yes, the African nations and leaders are actively demanding reparations for the slave trade. You see how you need to stop taking upon them names? Now watch this. A government operation for Black indigenous peoples of the Americas. You see that? You see where it started off? And you see the word focus on reparations, right? You see that? Reparations. So we're supposed to get it under indigenous, Black indigenous community. We're supposed to self-determination. You feel what I'm saying? We're supposed to get land rights, tribal sovereignty. You get what I'm saying? This is why we don't get reparations. So I just broke it down so you can't say, oh, Getty, you ain't break it down. But if you'd like to donate $1, I greatly appreciate it.
They didn't use highways to just displace Black people to make us start over. They also used highways to cover up indigenous Black history in America.
For almost 70 years, the Rondo neighborhood in St. Paul, Minnesota was a key center for the city's Black community. Home to about 80% of the city's Black residents, it was a bustling community with a flourishing middle class, vibrant cultural life, and integrated schools. But from 1956 to 1968, it was absolutely decimated to make way for the construction of Interstate 94. More than 600 families in Rondo lost their homes. And
they also cover up Black history this way.
And in Florida, around that same time, the building of I-95 displaced about 10,000 people living in a neighborhood called Overtown, which until then was the center of economic and cultural life for the Black residents of Miami. And in Maryland, a construction project that aimed to connect I-70 with I-83 and I-95 around Baltimore's central business district caused the
The erasure is real. The erasure is very real. And everything that we were told about our story was told in reverse on this land. We were already here. We've always been here. We, the copper-colored Aborigines, the Indigenous American Indians, who are now mistakenly known as Black or African American, have always been on this landmass. And there's no question about it. The proof is out there, the evidence is out there. You see the information every day. And if you don't, you need to tap in and really do your research, because it's out there, it's been here. And now the truth is coming out. With that being said, we are owed some form of restitution, whether it be by land rights, monetary compensation, or both. And actually, it is both. Everything that was owed to us has been displaced along with our identity and given to others. As you've seen, you have others claiming this false identity and representation in order to claim what is truly owed to the indigenous people. You've seen the atrocities, and you've known these atrocities to occur throughout our story, throughout our existence here. Since the existence of the United States Corporation and their collaborators, which are different countries such as Spain, France, and others. They work together to erase us and to make sure that we don't get what's owed to us. And even the African continent is starting to get in on this false narrative, as there were people who were taken from here and sent to Africa. There were people that were taken from here that was sent to the islands and that were sent to other European countries, including the Spanish peninsula. Like I said, history was told to us in reverse. The people that are known as slaves or Slavs are your Slavic people. Think of your Luka Doncics, your Nikola Jokic, your Ivica Zubaks. For those of you who watch basketball or know of sports, y'all should know what I'm talking about. Those are your Slavs. Those are your Slavic people. Those are your slaves. Ukrainians, Serbians, Slovenians, Europeans are slaves, Slavs. And as you saw over this past recent few years, both presidential administrations, the Biden and Trump administrations, have both given billions, not just millions and millions, but billions of dollars towards the Slavic people. And masked it as war funding or some kind of bailout or compensation, if you will. But we know what it is, as it was discussed in the content. And shout out to everybody who's contributed to this content. As I always say, the handles are below their respective videos or presentations. Make sure you check them out on the TikTok platform. But I just wanted to get this out here because there's the talks of reparations and stuff are starting to come forward. And people are really asking, how do we move forward? How do we get out of this and move and progress to some kind of resolution? Well, the answer is simple. We need to declassify our true identity as a collective. And in order to do that, we must acknowledge our own individual lineages, doing our genealogy and knowing the truth for ourselves. Once we do that, we can come to a consensus and begin to self-determine. But we can't come under Black or African American. It's not going to work. We are indigenous people. Before we were known as Black people, Black anything, we were known as indigenous aborigines. We are Americans in its true and original definition. If you know, you know. And if you don't, check out the 1828 Webster's Dictionary definition of American. So, with all that being said, we are definitely owed something. But before we even get close to receiving that or demanding that, we have to get our house in order. We have to declassify ourselves. The delineation movement is moving in full force, and I truly am happy for that we are starting to recognize that we are not like others. We have our own identity. We are not clinging on to a continent that is not ours. We're not clinging on to a landmass or a people that are not us. But with that delineation must come declassification. And I've been saying this for years now. Whew, let me drink some water. Yeah, excuse me. But yeah, I've been saying this for years. With delineation must come declassification. You can't have one without the other. Because as long as we continue to refer to ourselves as these false labels, we always give room for those who are not us to get in on what we have, whether it be our culture, whether it be our compensation, our story, whatever it is. Black is a redaction. To blacken something means to darken it out, and not in the sense of skin tone, in the sense of, as you would see on paper, when you look at classified files that have been classified. When you see classified files and classified information, most of that stuff that is inside of that file is redacted. And when you see something that's redacted, you see lines and sentences and words marked out in black. It's kind of like a double entendre. That word, that label, that identity, which is not an identity at all. There's no such thing as a black person. Race is a construct. It is something that is man-made. We have an ethnicity. We have a landmass. We have a nationality. We are American Indians. That is our true and legal and lawful identity in this day. And I know some people may have a problem with that, but at this point, it doesn't matter. We have to know the truth and go by the truth, stand on that truth and walk in that truth if you want to see some kind of progress. But again, that is up to you as an individual. That is up to us as individuals. We must get our house in order first. Do your genealogy, do your lineage, study, and know who you truly are. Then and only then can we come together as a people and truly get things done. This is Chief Steve signing off. Make sure you guys like and hype this video. Let me know what you think about it in the comments. And yeah, subscribe if you're new. Till then, Chief Steve signing off. Dr. Chief, I cherish you all. And Yoko Ki, thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.